Hi, this is a video going over a practice quiz 8-1. Just made this purely for this purpose so you can practice this. If you have not already, I would go ahead and try the quiz on your own, then come back, watch this video, see how you did, grade yourself, figure out what anything went wrong, how to fix it and whatnot. So yeah, make sure you do this on your own first, and then come watch this. Alright, so I'm going to go over these. This is just the same order as the quiz, exactly the same format. The problems will end up doing the same thing. Okay, so I've included all the exact same concepts in the same way it'll look like on the real quiz. So, number one, I just want to simplify the expression. Okay, I want to first take out a GCF of the top and a GCF of the bottom. Then go from there. So I'm going to look at the top first. Okay, so between 63 and 27, you got to figure out what number goes into both. Okay, well, hopefully it doesn't take you too long. If you have to go through and divide a bunch of stuff, that's okay. My number, my GCF would be 9, because 9 goes into both of those. And then, notice I have an x in both terms. So I know I have an x, and if you remember from earlier, my GCF, if I have the same letter or an x in every term, it's always the lowest exponent. So my lowest exponent is 8. Okay. And actually I just noticed something else too. Oh wow, I don't know why I wrote x. Alright, 8, sorry. So 9 goes into both numbers, 63 and 27. 8 is my lowest exponent of x. But one more thing is, notice how my highest exponent, whatever my highest exponent is, determines the sign of my GCF. So if my highest exponent is positive, then my GCF is positive. If my highest exponent is negative, my GCF is negative. So if you look, my highest exponent is 9, and this is subtraction or minus, so it makes it negative. Therefore, my GCF would also be negative. So it's negative 9x to the 8th. Okay, I'm sorry if that sounded like a lot, but I'm trying to explain every part of this to ensure everyone understands. Okay, now I got to do the bottom. So the bottom, I have 6 and 48. This one's a little easier. 6 goes into both. I have an x in both, so I know I take out an x, and my lowest exponent is 5. And if you look, my highest exponent is 7, which is positive because there's nothing there. So my GCF is positive. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and scoot over. And over, I'm going to, you can go down if you want to. I'm going to write next to it. So I write my GCF first on the top, GCF on the bottom. Okay. And I'm going to have a fraction still, and then do parentheses, and now I divide. So I'm going to divide 63 by negative 9. You get negative 7. And if I have, if I have 8 x's and I take 8 away, because that's my GCF, I would have no more x's left over. Okay? So at least one of these should not have any x with it. So I have negative 7. Then I have negative 27 divided by negative 9 gives me a positive 3. Two negatives make a positive. And then if I have 9 x's, I take 8 away, I would have 1 left over. Okay, so that's the top, and now we do the bottom. I do 6 divided by 6 gives me 1. I have 7 x's, I take 5 out, that would be x squared. And then I have negative 48 divided by 6 is negative 8. And if I have 5 x's, I take 5 away, I would not have any left. Alright, now we can focus on this fraction by itself. The first thing I would look at is the parentheses. Are the parentheses the exact same thing? No, because I have an x squared in one, I have a 3x in the other, a negative 7 and a negative 8. So none of them are the same. Now, if they were the exact same thing, I could get rid of them. I could cross them out. They are not on this question. And real quick, let me look. Since you are watching this video, you will get some insider information on the actual quiz. On the actual quiz, your parentheses will not be the same on this question. So just know you should not get the same thing. If you do, something's wrong. Okay? So the only thing else I have to worry about are the GCF numbers in the front. I can reduce those, right? So if I look at this, I have 9 and 6. I can reduce 9 and 6, right? 9 I can divide by 3 and get 3. 6 I can divide by 3 and get 2. Okay, I guess that's a negative 3 technically because it was negative 9. Alright, and then the x's. I know I've taught this in different ways. The way that I always like to talk about this though is if I have an x on the top and an x on the bottom like this, the bigger one always wins, or it always stays. So the bigger one is the top one, and I would subtract 8 minus 5 gives me 3. So that means I would have x cubed on top, and I would have nothing, no x on the bottom. Okay. So that looks a little messy, so I'm going to rewrite this. So at the top, notice I have negative 3x cubed. Okay, so I have negative 3x cubed. And then I'm going to write this parentheses right here. Negative 7 plus 3x divided by, on the bottom I have just this 2, right? We got rid of all the x's on the bottom. And this parentheses right here. X squared minus 8. Now I don't need to write the 1. You can. It won't be wrong. Okay, I just want to leave it like that. That would be my final answer. Okay? So that is factored form, and that is one term. So that's exactly how number 1 will be on every single quiz. So no matter which one you get, that's what it's going to look like. You're going to have a GCF on top, a GCF on bottom, and since you're watching this, I'll go ahead and tell you your parentheses will not match, so they will stay, but you will be able to reduce the numbers and the x's out in front. Okay? So definitely be sure to do that. Alright, number 2. Number 2 is a little different. So notice on the first one we didn't have to factor at all, but this one we're going to have to factor twice. Okay, and again, this is exactly like the quiz. Every single quiz has this same format. So if I look at number 2, I look at the top. Now, the first thing you always want to do before even factoring is, do I have a GCF? I will tell you on number 2 for every quiz. Let me make sure before I say every, at least the one I have right here. It looks like every quiz, okay, every number 2 is going to have a GCF on either the top or the bottom, not both. Okay, so I didn't put it on both. I only did one. On this one, it happens to be on top. Easiest way to tell is look at my very first one. I have an x squared on one. I have a 2x to the 6th on the other. Okay, they should both be x squares. That should be a dead giveaway. GCF's on top. All right. So you got to figure out what is my GCF on top. Okay, I can divide all 3 numbers by 2, and I have an x in all 3, and my lowest exponent is 4. Okay, that's my GCF. Okay, so I'm not even going to bother with the bottom right now. I'm going to go ahead and do the top. So on the top, I would write my GCF out front. And remember, depending on what version you get, it might be on top, it might be on bottom. It just depends. Okay, and I divide these. So 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. I have 6 x's here. I take 4 out. That gives me x squared. Okay, that's what I want in the front. Okay, then I have minus 10 divided by 2 is 5. I have 5 x's here. I take 4 away. That gives me 1. And then minus 48 divided by 2 is 24. And I had 4 x's, but I took 4 out, so that's it. Okay, so that's the top. Now let's go ahead and factor the bottom. So I don't have a G. If I have GCF on top, then I just factor the bottom like normal. Or if I have a GCF on the bottom, then I just factor the top like normal. It's going to be one or the other, not both. So if you remember factoring, I'm going to multiply the first times the last. So 1, because there's a 1 right here, right? 1 times 72 equals 72. I want two numbers that multiply to that number and that add to this number, which it is minus, so it is negative 17. So I want to add to negative 17. I want to multiply to 72. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go over here and just write my two parentheses because I know that's what I'm going to have. If you notice, my first x, my x squared is 1x, so I have 1x in each parentheses. Okay, now let's figure this out. 72. If you need to, you can write factors of 72, figure out which ones can add or subtract to 17. That's totally fine. So what I have 72 and 1. That doesn't work. I have 36 and 2. That can no way add or subtract to 17. The only other one that I know off the top of my head, which I made all these numbers small enough where you should be able to figure this out. They're all under 12 by 12 as far as multiplication. So the only other one that I know of is 9 and 8. And 9 times 8 is 72, and I can do negative 9 and negative 8, and those add to negative 17 because they're both negative, right? And because I have two negatives, they multiply to a positive. So that means in my parentheses, it doesn't matter which order, I'm going to put minus 9, minus 8. Okay, so I factor the bottom. Now I have to factor the top also. So I do first times last, gives me negative 24. And then, okay, same thing. Except I'm going to write this right below. So I have 2x to the fourth times, I know I have two parentheses, each with an x because of my 1x squared. I want two numbers that multiply to negative 24, add to negative 5. Okay, again, if you need to write your factors out here, 24 and 1 multiply to 24, they cannot add or subtract to 5. 12 and 2 also cannot add or subtract to 5. 6 and 4, but you cannot get to 5 from there. The last one that I can think of is 8 and 3, which if I want a negative 5, I would want negative 8 plus 3. Okay, so negative 8 plus 3. And then of course the bottom did not change, so I have x minus 9, x minus 8, and look at that. Once you get to this point, you should be able to see one set of parentheses to get rid of. I did that on purpose, and just to make sure before I do say for certain, it looks like, so I have all four in front of me, exactly one set of parentheses will match on this one, on number 2. So after you do GCF on the top or bottom, after you factor both top and bottom, one set of parentheses, in this case x minus 8, one set will be on top and bottom. You can cross it off. My answer is just whatever's left, okay? So on the top, I have 2x to the fourth times x plus 3. On the bottom, I have x minus 9, and that's it. That is my full answer. So once you factor and you cross off the two that match, you just write everything that's left over. You don't have to do anything else. Don't multiply it back, because then you're just going to reverse what you already did. You don't want to do that. Okay, you've already done all the work, so from here, just write the answer that's left over. And that's it on number 2. This is how number 2 will look for every quiz. Okay, number 3. Now I'm multiplying. But again, if you look at all these, I'm going to have a GCF in every single one. And just to make sure, again, before I say every one, it looks like I'm right in that, yep, every single quiz has some sort of GCF, okay? So something can be taken out of all four sides. Top left, top right, bottom right. You just got to figure out what it is. All right, so let's look at the top right. So I'm going to start, I always start up here. So I have 20 and negative 8. Come on. All right, so what number can be divided out of both of those? Okay, that one would be 4. And I have an x in both. My lowest exponent is 3. Okay, and my biggest exponent is positive, so my GCF is positive. Okay, that's my GCF there. Now let's go down. I have, oh, not that one. I have 10 and 120. Oh, okay, well, obviously, when I say obviously, it's 10, right? 10 can go into both. And I have an x in both. My lowest exponent is 10, 10x to the 10th. And my biggest exponent is positive, so my GCF is positive. All right, let's go over here, top right, 5 and 60. 5 can go into both of those. And x is in both. Lowest exponent is 6. And my biggest exponent is positive, so GCF is positive. Lastly, bottom right, I have 24 and 60. The first thing I can think of that goes into there would be 6, looks like. Actually, 12. 12 can go into both. Okay, let's do that. 12, there's an x in both. Lowest exponent is 5. And my biggest exponent is negative, so that would be negative. My GCF would be negative. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and write below this, just so I have room you can see. All right, so at the top right, let's start there. I have 4x cubed, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. 4x's minus 3 is just 1x. Minus 8 divided by 4 is 2, and I took all the x's out. Sweet. Remember, when you take out a variable, one number should end up without a letter, no x, okay? Because you're taking as much as you can out, so one of them should lose all of it. All right, anyways, the bottom. 10 divided by 10 is 1. Or no, I'm sorry. Let's write the GCF first. We're supposed to do that. Okay, 10 divided by 10 is 1. And then 11x's minus 10 is just 1x. Plus 120 divided by 10 is 12. No x. GCF first. Divided by 5 divided by 5 is 1. 7x's minus 6x's is 1. 60 divided by 5 is 12. So you can kind of see these starting to match up a little bit. The bottom, negative 12x to the 5th is GCF. I got 24 divided by negative 12 is negative 2. Negative 60 divided by negative 12 is positive 5. And that one would have an x left over. Alright, so here's where the fun part comes in. I can cross off the same exact parentheses. So this one, I have 1x, 1x, plus 12, plus 12. Sweet, those are gone. I have 5x, 5x, minus 2, minus 2. The order doesn't matter as long as you have the exact same thing with the exact same sign. Okay, now look at that. All I have left is these 4 terms that are multiplied. And if I remember correctly when I made these, which I think I did on this one on purpose, yes, all 4 parentheses will go away. Okay? So as long as your parentheses match like this, then you have so far done everything correct. Every quiz does this, so on number 3, once you do GCF, all your parentheses should go away. Now, I'm going to go ahead and write whatever's left. So we have 4x to the 3rd. I'm going to go up here. So 4x to the 3rd, and then 10x to the 10th over 10x to the 10th times 5x to the 6th, okay, over negative 12x to the 5th. Alright, now from here, I just want to simplify, okay? You can multiply everything and then simplify. That's totally fine. I'm going to go ahead and just simplify first, because look, I have 4 and 12. That would be a 1 and a negative 3. Then I got 5 and 10. That would be a 1 and a 2. Okay, let's just go from that. Let's do that. I'm going to do one thing at a time. I don't want to go too fast, too much. So at the top, I have 1 times 1, right? If this works. Oh, please. Don't. Okay, there we go. So 1 times 1 gives me 1. I have 3 x's and then 6 x's, so that gives me 9 x's. On the bottom, I have 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. 10 x's and 5 x's give me 15 x's. All right. Now, see, now I'm condensing. I'm down to one fraction, and the only thing left are my two x values. Now, remember, the bigger one always wins. Think of it like a fight. The bigger one's going to win every time, which means the bigger one stays. So, if I write this out, I have 1 over negative 6. The numbers haven't changed. I already did that. But this one is bigger, so that it's going to stay on the bottom. And then I subtract 15 minus 9 gives me 6, and that becomes my final answer. Okay, now again, number 3 on every single quiz will be just like this in the same order. If you go in the same order I just did, you will be able to solve number 3 on every quiz. Doesn't matter which one you get. They're all the same. Okay? Alright, number 4. Dividing. Now see, I changed it up a little bit. Notice I have all 4 are x squares, which means I have to factor all 4. But I didn't do GCF at all in this one. I did that on purpose. Okay? And because we have a division, remember we got to change that to multiply and switch or flip, right? Keep, change, flip. So you keep the first one, you change that to a multiply, and then you flip this fraction. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first. So let's see here. We have x squared plus 15x plus 56 all over x 5x 24. Okay. X squared plus 5x minus 24. Sweet. Alright, now we got to flip this second fraction and then change it to multiply. So we kept it, we changed it to multiply, then we flip. So we have this part goes on top, x squared minus 7x plus 12. Okay. And then on the bottom, we have the top, x squared minus 11x plus 28. Okay, so we did the keep, change, flip thing. If that's easy to remember, do that. Now we have to factor all of these. Now again, I tried to make these as simple as I could. They're all under 12 times 12. You should not need a calculator. I mean, if you do, that's okay. I'm just saying it's not going to be like outrageous numbers that nobody knows. Like, these are common numbers. I use common numbers as much as possible. So let's start at the top left. So I do first times last gives me 56. Now, what multiplies to 56 and adds to 15? That would be 7 and 8. Okay, so just below this, I'm going to go ahead and do x plus 7, x plus 8. Okay, so that's my first one. Now I have first times last is negative 24. So what multiplies to negative 24 adds to positive 5? 8, negative 3. Okay, so over x plus 8, x minus 3. Okay, you see that match. I'm going to go ahead and wait. You can go ahead and cross it off if you want to, but I'm going to wait a little bit. Let's keep going. I have first times last is 12. What multiplies to 12 and adds to negative 7? Negative 4, negative 3. So I have x minus 4, x minus 3 over. Last one. First times last is 28. What multiplies to 28 adds to negative 11 is negative 4, negative 7. So I have x minus 4, x minus 7. Sweet. Okay, now's the fun part. Cross off everything that's the exact same. Okay, so let's do that. I have, well, go away. I have x plus 8, x plus 8. I have x plus 4, x plus 4. Okay, then I have x minus 3, x minus 3. As long as it's vertical, up and down, or diagonal, I can cross it off. I just can't cross off horizontal. But lucky for me, look at this. I have x plus 7, x minus 7. Because they're not the same, I cannot cross them off, but that's the only thing left. That's my entire answer. So x plus 7 on top, x minus 7 on bottom, and that is my answer. And just so you know, I'm confirming just to make sure it looks like every quiz, yep, every quiz number 4 will do this exact thing. So you should only end up with one thing on top, one thing on bottom, everything else cancels out. I know that might seem like, oh, that's a huge waste of time, but that shows me you understand what you're doing, and you're doing it in the least amount of work possible. Because honestly, I rewrote the problem, I factored it second, crossed it off, and just wrote the answer. That's 3 steps. You can't get much simpler than that. Alright, last 2. One's adding, one's subtracting. So we're going to solve these the same way. Just remember, one is plus, one is minus. That's the only difference, okay? So again, I wrote these the same way. Okay. And again, I'm double checking that just to make sure before I say this is how it's always going to be. And it looks like, okay, I just want to make sure I know what I'm telling you is correct, especially since you are taking the time to watch this video. You want to get the insider tips and tricks for this quiz. And okay, so I got it. So number 5, for every quiz will be solved the same way. The first thing you need to do is, if I notice this fraction can be reduced, you're going to have, it's either going to be here or it's going to be flipped and it'll be the second fraction. One of these fractions will look just like this, and you can reduce it. Okay, so the first thing I would do is figure out what number goes into 18 and 48. I mean, your numbers are going to be different. Please don't do the exact same numbers on yours. Okay, so I can reduce this. I can divide this by 6, goes into both, right? 6 goes into both, and notice I have an x on both. And let's see. Well, let's see if okay. Yeah, I'll just say 7. Because again, 7 is the smallest one. I can do the same thing doing vertical. Okay. So I'm going to divide both by 6, and then I'm going to take 7 x's out, right? So if I divide both by 6, that would give me 3 on top. Let's do this right here. 3 on top, and 6 into 48 is 8 on bottom. Okay, so I reduce the numbers, and then the x's, I can think of it as a GCF, or the other way is fine. The top is bigger, so I know it stays on the top, and I subtract. 13 minus 7, that gives me, what, 6? Right? Okay, that's right. I hope it is. I'm not sure what I was thinking when I made this. Anyways. Okay. So I have 6. Great. And then on this other fraction, notice I don't have a number in front of my x cubed, and so I can't reduce anything. So then I'm just going to write plus x cubed minus 7 over 5. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is reduce the one fraction. There's only one on number 5. Reduce the one fraction as much as I can, and then go from there. So if you notice, though, real quick, I should only have one number on the denominator on the bottom for each fraction. That is true for every quiz. If you reduce it first, which you should not have any x's on any denominator. Okay, now here's the part where I think a lot of people get confused on. I have to get a common denominator. Okay, if I look at 8 and 5, what number can both of those multiply to? Well, this is something that I think I went over in class. I may have mentioned in the video, I don't remember. Always look at the biggest number only. So I'm going to go ahead and list my multiples of 8, my bigger number. So I have 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64. Okay, I can stop. Probably won't go that far. Okay, so you start with the lowest number. And I want to see if this number right here, if my other denominator, 5, can go into that number. Okay, can 5 go into 8? No. Cross it off. Can 5 go into 16? No. Can 5 go into 24? No. Can 5 go into 32? No. Can 5 go into 40? Yes. Okay, once you find a number that both numbers can go into, which is 40, that is your common denominator. From there, I want to multiply each fraction to make the bottom the same number. Okay, so I want to multiply I want to multiply it to make it 40. I would multiply 8 by 5 to make it 40, right? So whatever you multiply it by, you do the top and the bottom, not just the bottom. Okay, because then on the top, I'm going to do 5 times 3x to the 6th. And I'm going to do 5 times 8. Okay, now let's look at the other side. I have 5. 5 times 8 would make it 40. So I do top and bottom. So on the top, I'm going to do 8 times x to the third, 8 times negative 7. And then, of course, the bottom, 8 times 5. Okay, I'm going to go to the right over here. So let's look at this first fraction. I have 5 times 3 x to the 6. 5 times 3 is 15. And then it's just x to the 6. Because I don't have any other x's, I'm not combining x's. Over. Bottom, 5 times 8, we said was 40. That's our common denominator. Then I have plus. And on the right, I do 8 times x to the third is 8x to the third. 8 times 7, negative 7, sorry, negative 56. And then the bottom, 8 times 5 is 40. Okay, once that my denominators are the exact same number, I can combine like terms on the top, if I have any. So let's look at the top. I have 15x to the 6th, I have 8x to the third, and I have minus 56. If I look at these, none of these are like terms. So in fact, on this question, my answer, I would just write them in order, from highest to lowest, or I guess it didn't really matter. I just keep them separate. So I do 15x to the 6th plus 8x to the third minus 56 all over 40. And that's it. If I had like terms, if my x's were the same number, I could add those numbers together. You know, if they were both x to the 6th or both x to the third, I could add those. Because they're not, I have to leave them separate. Okay, so number 5 on every quiz, I have one fraction to reduce. I find a common denominator. I multiply to change them. And then I add the top and just combine like terms. Okay, that's how number 5 is. All right, number 6. Okay, find the difference. Notice the only difference on, no pun intended, the only difference between 6 and 5 is this subtraction sign right here. That is it. The biggest thing that I see people forget, though, is this subtraction sign actually gets distributed or multiplied to both terms after it. Okay, we'll get to that later when we get there. But, so notice I have this first fraction. I can reduce this again. Okay, that's a good thing. So find the fraction like this and reduce it first. Do the same thing as we just did. I can divide 24 and 84 by, let's see, 12 goes into both. Okay, so if I divide by 12, 24 divided by 12 on top gives me 2. 84 divided by 12 on bottom gives me 7. And then the bigger x always wins, right? So the bigger x is on top, and then I do 7 minus 3 gives me 4. Okay? Then I do minus. And look, this is the difference on 6. I can still reduce my first fraction, but I can also reduce the second. So you can reduce both fractions on number 6, where you could not on number 5. So if I look at all three of these numbers, look at these, 7, 21, 21. I can divide all of those by 7. Okay, so I want to do that. So the first one, 7 divided by 7 is 1. My x did not change because I don't have an x in all three. I can't change it. Then I do plus 21 divided by 7 is 3. The bottom, 21 divided by 7 is still 3. Okay. So on 6, I reduce both fractions, just like that. And then now I do the same thing. I want a common denominator. Okay, so again, I only need to look at the biggest number, 7. So I do 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42. I'm going to stop there. Okay, so I start from the smallest, work my way up, and find the first one that 3 can go into. So, can 3 go into 7? No. Can 3 go into 14? No. Can 3 go into 21? Yes. That is my common denominator. Alright. So, on this one, I have 7. I want to make it 21. So I multiply 7 times 3 to make it 21. So I'm going to do 3 times 2, 3 times 7. And on the right side, I want 3 to be 21. I can multiply 3 by 7. Okay. So on the top, I do 7 times x to the 4th, 7 times 3, and then 7 times 3. Okay, so let's go over to the right on here, just for, you can go down. I'm going to go to the right just for space. So on the left, first fraction, I have 3 times 2x to the 4th, gives me 6x to the 4th. The bottom is 3 times 7 is 21. Okay, then I have minus 7 times x to the 4th is 7x to the 4th. 7 times 3 is 21. And then 7 times 3 is 21. Okay, I have a common denominator. My number is the same on the bottom. Now, look at this. I have like terms. I have x to the 4th, x to the 4th. Okay, on the first one, I did not have like terms. On this one, I do. Okay, if I have like terms, I put them together. So in this case, I want to make sure I go in order. You want to go left to right. Okay, this is one thing that I see a lot of people mess up. I'm actually doing 6x to the 4th minus 7x to the 4th. That would give me negative 1x to the 4th. Okay, you have to go left to right. Make sure you go in order. But then also, here's the other thing that always catches people. A lot of people would just put this other number. You cannot do that because I'm still subtracting, right? Right here. I still have this minus, so I'm subtracting 21. So I just put minus 21. Okay? That's the biggest mistake I see people make. They combine like terms correctly, but then they forget that other number still has a minus if it's in front. If there's a minus in front, that minus goes to every number behind it. Okay, so I have 6x to the 4th minus 7x to the 4th is negative 1x to the 4th. Then I have minus 21 is minus 21. Because I have no other numbers, I cannot put it together with anything. There isn't anything to put it with. Okay, so that's the top. The bottom is the same number, 21. And that is it. I cannot reduce anything else. That's my answer. And again, that's how number 6 will be on every single quiz. So no matter which one you get, if you have watched this video, I reduce my one fraction just like I did on 5, and then I reduce my second fraction also. Okay, so these numbers are in the same order as the actual quiz. They're the same steps as the actual quiz. All I did was just change some numbers. Every quiz is written the same steps, same thing happens, same stuff crosses out, the same number of things reduce, all that stuff. And if you look at the time of this video, I'm still under 40 minutes, and that's with explaining everything I did, showing all my work, going a little slower than I would normally go. So whether you're in class, whether you're online, this is still under 40 minutes, and I'm done, and I would have got 100. So as long as you understand how to do it with these 6 questions, you should be able to finish this quiz in less time than needed. You should not take the whole hour, hopefully. Or even if you need to, you have an extra 20 minutes if you're online. You still got an extra 6 minutes if you're face-to-face. Either way, you have time left over, and this is with me showing every single step, and I'm explaining everything that I do. And I'm going slow on purpose. Okay? So if you have this, you watch this video, congratulations, you got some of the tips. I've told you some things that will happen on the quiz, for sure. That everything that I showed you, everything will happen on your quiz. Just the numbers are different. That is the only difference. Okay. Hopefully this has helped you. You are free to print off the answer key for this quiz. Hopefully you did the quiz before you watched the video, or at least tried and attempted. If you need to, though, like I said, print off the answer key for this practice quiz. Use it to help you on the real quiz. I showed all my work, I showed all my steps, and this exact copy that I did in the video is what you can print off as a PDF. Okay, if you have a color printer, that's even better, because you see all the colors that I use. Everything is color coded. If not, that's okay. But you still have all the work. So yeah, use this to help you. Hopefully you understand. Hopefully this helped. I think by making this practice quiz, specifically for this chapter, like I said, this chapter I feel like is probably the hardest one that we do. Because fractions are just are difficult for a lot of people. And it's it's all fractions, as you can tell. It's a lot of factoring. It's every question we had to factor something. So yeah, hopefully this video helps. I'm glad you spent the time to watch it, and good luck on the quiz.